Today on Locked On Red Wings, Danielson starts the World Junior Championship hot, and Simon Edvinsson is recalled, and he will face the Minnesota Wild.
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. I'm a podcast producer for the Daily JAWWJ News Radio podcast. Well, Scotty's the host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News. And today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. We were going to have a more fun, laid-back episode for you guys today. We were going to do a New Year's resolution-ish episode, but then the World Junior Championship pool play started, and a lot of Red Wings prospects had some pretty good performances. And then, literally 5 minutes before we were about to record this, the Red Wings decided to recall 3 players from the Grand Rapids Griffins. So that shook up how this episode was going to go. New Year's resolutions, we're going to try and push to the Thursday episode, which makes more sense. It's closer to New Year's Day.
I think it would be the Friday episode.
You're right. It would be technically the Friday episode. We would record it on Thursday.
Yeah. And if that gets full, then doing New Year's resolutions on the 1st or the 2nd is no big deal either. So we'll get there. Yeah.
And so let's lead off. Normally we do roster moves first, but because the roster moves are so intrinsically tied to the game that's going to be played on Wednesday against the Minnesota Wild, let's put that off until segment 2. Let's lead off with the World Junior Championship stuff. Tuesday was the first day, Scotty, of pool play at the 2023-24 World Junior Championship, and Team USA, Team Sweden, and Team Canada all played. All 3 of those teams have United States Red Wings prospects on them who play in the United States. And all of them, put on pretty solid performances for their respective clubs. And it started off with Red Wings first round pick, 9th overall, Nate Danielson. He had the first goal of the tournament, and he finished with 2 points and named player of the game against, who was it? Was that Finland that they played against in that one? So, a strong performance from a young player that you really have high hopes for.
Yeah, big time, man. He looked good too, right? And it's so fun that they start off earlier in the day. He looked good. Obviously, the goal was great. And for a very pretty legitimate pool of Red Wings that are going to be throughout the tournament, just having, starting off with a bang like that is pretty cool. So, yeah, a lot of eyes on him, obviously, from this organization. And good start.
Well, and even along the lines of World Junior Championship, he's on the younger side still. And and he's playing on the 4th line, I believe, for Team Canada. Now, I could be off base. I don't know my World Juniors as well as I know my Red Wings, but I believe he's playing on the 4th line with the Team Canada. And that 4th line was really good against Team Finland. Obviously, like I said, 2 points for Nate Danielson. His goal was nothing fancy. He was down low in front of the net. He redirected a shot from the high slot, and it squeaked past the goaltender for Team Finland. But, his performance was all over social media. Everyone was making note of Nate Danielson, who only got about 13 and a half minutes of ice time. He was +3 in this game from the 4th line. He's competing for ice time against guys like Matthew Savoy, and Connor Geeky. Those guys are playing 16, 17, even 18 minutes a night. He's down there in the 4th line, +3, 13 and a half minutes. So Nate Danielson, maybe he keeps playing this good, maybe he climbs up the lineup a little bit, but he was very strong against not a slouching Team Finland. Team Finland.
No, Finland. Yeah, Finland's pretty good. There's some. First off, just the day they released World Juniors rosters is one of my favorite hockey days of the year. That was obviously a couple weeks ago now, but man, that's a pretty good team. Obviously got off to a good start. I think the other big notable Red Wings prospect performance was Trey Augustine. Obviously Michigan State, Detroit Red Wings was in that, had a phenomenal game as well. I think that's probably the 2 most noteworthy of day one.
Yeah, United States played Norway, I believe, which, not to the same caliber as a Finland or a Sweden or obviously a Canada if you're not United States, but still a team that's been last few years getting better. And I say years, but over the course of the last decade has been improving in competitiveness. And they were pushing pretty hard in the first period, and Trey Augustine had to make some really big key saves for Team USA. He finished the game making 22 of 23 possible saves and a save percentage of 9.56. So he wasn't like tested a bunch, but he was tested pretty early before the Team USA really ran away with it in the second period. There were no goals at the end of the first, and he looked sharp.
There's a big power play goal there in the second period that kind of put it out of reach too. And John Morosi, who is a Michigan native baseball reporter and was very infamous this offseason for saying that Ohtani was on a plane that he wasn't on, but he covers some hockey sometimes, and again is a Michigan native, so likes to do reports on the Red Wings and whatnot, and was talking about Trey Augustine, and one of the stats he threw out there was a year ago, last year, when Trey Augustine was 17, he was the first 17-year-old USA hockey goaltender to win 4 games in a single World Junior. So really specific stat, obviously, but still cool. Today he earned his 5th career World Junior win, and the U.S. record is 10. So he's not necessarily knocking on the door, but you have a whole tournament ahead of you now when you're already, 4 or 5 or whatever, 5 away. Their math. Wow, that was really bad. So yeah, it's just I think that he has been such a prominent fixture in net for Team USA at the junior level for the last 2 years, that knowing that A, the Red Wings connection, but B, Michigan State, right? For all the college hockey fans out there, for all the Sparties out there, he's going to be in net a lot there too. So really cool.
Yeah, what's crazy too is when he was drafted, a lot of Red Wings fans probably went like, but he played right down the road and now obviously he plays right down the road at Michigan State and East Lansing. But before that, he was in Plymouth playing with the US NTDP, the United States National Team Development Program. Honestly, guys, if you guys are in the Metro Detroit area, you need to go to Plymouth and check those games out, because
it is such a blast. I've covered a lot of games there. It is an absolute blast. It's a fantastic venue. Really good, really good news media kind of place too. But yeah, it's a really, really fun and nice place. High school hockey tournament is always there in February every year as well. I cover that a lot. So it's a really, really nice place. And like you said, Brian, there's so much hockey, really good hockey being played there all the time.
And so many of the guys who play so many of the Americans that play in the NHL are products of that. Like Patrick Kane, I believe, played for them. I know that Dylan Larkin was a product of them as well. So it's guys, you could get you got some people like to be those guys who I knew about him before he was popular. Literally, US NTDP is the place to go if you want to see the up and coming American stars in the NHL before they play. They consistently and constantly just pump out quality American hockey players. They have brought Team USA to the forefront of international hockey because they've been dedicated to just developing youth hockey players. Check them out if you're ever in the Plymouth area. They're playing hockey right now. It's
very cool.
They play in the USHL as well. There's competitive hockey games. That's great. Anyways, sorry. That's my ad campaign for you guys to check out. The United States Development Program. Team Sweden played as well, Scotty, and they have 2 Red Wings prospects we're keeping track of. They played Latvia, another team that, isn't usually considered one of the stronger teams in international competition. Still, as the game's growing, they're getting harder to play against every year, but Team Sweden took care of business.
That's the thing, for sure. Yeah, that's the I didn't mean to cut you off there. That's the thing with the rosters. It used to be, for a long time, there was just no middle class with these rosters, right? And that's not even juniors level. That's what?
There's just a joke there where you said middle class. I'm going to leave it, though.
Oh, okay. Over my
You said there was no middle class, but...
But my point is, and that was really throughout all age groups, right? That wasn't just the juniors. That was just at the Olympics or whatever. It was the same thing. And it was just, there was really, really good teams. And then there was, teams that kind of got just trampled. And now we're starting to see as the game is growing and every year, some of these teams that are usually towards the bottom are continuing to grow and grow. And that's really cool.
Yeah. And speaking of teams that are growing, Team Sweden, I guess I really can't say that. Team Sweden's always around the top. I was trying for a nice segue right into talking about Anton Johansson, Axel Sandin-Pellikka, but that would have been...
Sweden is not one of those teams.
That would have been disingenuous. They've been one of the top teams for the 3 decades now. Yes, but they have Axel Sandin-Pellikka, who got an assist in this game. He played 17 minutes. Offensive defenseman, also a first-round pick by the Red Wings this past year. His assist came on a redirected shot, something that the Red Wings are very familiar with as being victims of recently. But he took a shot from the point that was redirected in. He looked really strong, offensive zone defenseman. But one guy who, I myself admitted just this past week, Scotty, that, someone I didn't know a whole heck of a lot about, Anton Johansson.
Yeah.
He played a lot of big minutes in this game. He finished the game with 20 minutes of ice time, and I think that's second on Team Sweden only to Elias Pettersson. No, not that one. This one's a defenseman.
Yeah.
Who had 21 minutes of ice time in this hockey game. He's 6'6", I believe he is. 6'4", right shot defenseman. I mean, taken in the fourth round by the Red Wings last year. So he's slowly developing himself as just like this big, tough to play against defenseman, but he doesn't get the fanfare someone like Axel Sandin-Pellikka does. So this is your best chance to really, check out someone like Anton Johansson, who's playing big minutes for a very good Team Sweden.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So that's your check-in on day one. You have a couple games today, by the time you're listening to this, December 27th, Wednesday, 8:30 in the morning. Finland and Germany play. Kevin Bicker, a fifth-round Red Wings pick, is playing for Team Germany as they take on Finland at 8:30. And then at 1:30, Canada plays Latvia. And again, that's Nate Danielson. And, of course, Macklin Celebrini, who's going to be the assumed number one overall pick in this upcoming draft. But who knows what time, when draft comes, where he'll be picked. But anyways, that's the games for today. 8:30, Germany, 1:30, Canada. If you're a Red Wings fan, those are your prospects to look out for. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, big names called up for the Detroit Red Wings, two of them at least. No disrespect to Czarnik, but we like Berggren and Edvinsson. So we'll talk about that and the game against the Minnesota Wild in segment 2 and 3 of the Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Got to talk to you guys today about Gametime. If you guys are tired of trying to buy tickets and then next thing you know, you think you're buying a $40 ticket and it's going to cost you $80 because of those pesky just service fees and all the other fees that they change the name of the fees because they get hounded on for all those service fees, right, Scotty? So they're like, oh, we're going to change this. Instead of a service fee, we're going to call it a convenience fee. Well, you don't got to worry about any of that and any of those games when you buy your tickets through Gametime. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know exactly what you're getting without hidden fees. Buy tickets in 2 seconds with 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Gametime has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event, and even an hour after it starts. It's the place to find last-minute seats. With zone deals, you pick the section, and Gametime picks the seats for an average of 18% in savings. And the Gametime guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Segment 2, Locked On Red Wings podcast. Scotty, it's really convenient actually that we were discussing because I'm off all week because I had vacation time to burn. And you, with your odd hours working at the newspaper, were available this morning. We talked about recording in the morning and just getting it out of the way. But we decided, you know what? Let's let it simmer. Let's see what happens. You're walking home from work and I'm setting up ready to do the podcast. This is where we're like, okay, we're going to do the New Year's resolution stuff. And then right as you're about to pop into the window here, Red Wings announced that they've recalled Jonatan Berggren, Austin Czarnik, and Simon Edvinsson. I don't think either of us are surprised by the move. I think what we're surprised by is the timing of it. I thought for sure this would happen tomorrow or today by the time people are listening to this, just a few hours ahead of the game against the Minnesota Wild. But thank goodness we waited because now we can talk about Simon Edvinsson getting a second game with the Detroit Red Wings.
Yes. I think, again, like initially there was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to be like, oh my goodness, he's going back down. Like, what is happening? But it was, as you said, and it kind of laid out very clearly a paper move. And I think a lot of people are, again, it just sucks to like celebrate him getting playing time because of an injury. Like that's never something that you really want to like, we've been wanting Edvinsson here all season, but it was never going to happen at full health. And of course, right when we start talking about how healthy the blue line is, all these defensemen start
the
dropping
monkey's
like
paw,
flies.
right?
But, I'm really pumped to see more of him. Obviously, I don't think we've gotten, at least at the time of this recording, an update on Petrie or Fischer, who had the big collision in the last game. So we'll say that again.
Part of the announcement of the three being called up was Christian Fischer was placed on IR retroactive to the 23rd.
Sure, there you go.
So that's the roster space being made for those three guys to be called up, but we don't know about Mata or Petrie.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Mata and Petrie, not Fischer. So. Yeah, well, I mean, at least one of them is clearly going to miss time if Edvinsson's back. That's at a minimum. And yeah, I'm really excited. I hope he gets a little bit more opportunity. I don't know, I'm not saying I want him up there on the top pair or anything like that, but I would really like to see him get a little bit more of an opportunity out there and just take advantage of said opportunity. We've talked a lot about how as his playing time increase last year, right at the end of the season when he got his, cup of coffee at the NHL level, it was there was room to grow, but like each game he looks to be more and more confident. I would like to see, obviously something similar this year, but man, really excited just to see him out on the ice more. And yeah, again, it kind of sucks that it's at the expense of like, I want the blue line to be healthy. All right. Like quick recovery to everybody who's hurt, but well, this is why you have depth. This is why, for instances like this, where if somebody goes down, you're relying on now like a top prospect in your organization and not, some just like random depth piece that nobody's ever heard of. So,
yeah. So I'm really curious to see who between Mata and Jeff Petrie is going to be out. It could be both of them, honestly. And you could see Justin Hull and Simon Edvinsson back in the lineup. And I also think it's very telling that when Mata was initially hurt, right, you still saw Simon Edvinsson get called up and Hall get scratched. Now, it could be a situation like Jake Woolman when he got scratched. We initially thought, it's performance. Derek Lalonde says, hey, it's more he's banged up and injured. Remember, he ran into the post during Sweden, and he also took that nasty shot off the legs in a couple games prior. So he could be banged up, and that could be why he got scratched, or it could have been performance-based. I could see it being performance-based. I don't think he's necessarily played that well this year. I think he's been underperforming for sure. But regardless, I mean, of whoever is going to be sitting out, like getting more Edvinsson is very exciting. Obviously, like you said, you don't want it to come at the expense of an injury. But getting more Edvinsson is always a good thing because I really want to see this guy get comfortable in a Red Wings uniform, get comfortable playing with partners. But I do think that the makeup of the pairs gets really interesting depending on who is out. Right? Because who are you going to pair a rookie Simon Edvinsson with? Like, you obviously understand, and he made a couple mistakes against the New Jersey Devils, right? Who are you going to pair him with? You wouldn't want to pair him with Ghost, right? Ghost.
I was just going to say, I think Ghost is probably last on the list, to be completely honest with you. And that's obviously, I love Gostisbehere. He was my favorite free agent signing of the offseason, and he's been very valuable this year. Just like stylistically, that makes zero sense. You should not put that much defensive responsibility on Simon Edvinsson, which is what you would be doing with Ghost there. You're obviously, I mean, we can presume it's not going to be Wallman or Seider. So who does that leave? I think they're going to do what they did last year and put him with Sherratt, especially if Petrie is one of the people who's going to miss significant injury time. I think that's a pretty easy thing just because, again, they already have a little bit of experience last year too, just, depending on how you view how valuable and effective it was is null. Like they have played together a little bit before. I don't know, man. I think that's probably where I would lean right now, but because like if it's not one of those three, then like who else is it, right?
Well, that's the thing, right? Like because in the game
with Justin Hall. Right. Okay. So it's Ben Sherratt.
In the game against the New Jersey Devils, like they did start the game with Gostisbehere and Edvinsson paired up together before the injury happened. So it's like it is something that they have considered and actually executed.
Right. Clearly, they found ice time together. Right.
on paper, it doesn't seem like a wise decision because while Edvinsson is, better known to being a defensive defenseman rather than, he's not to say he doesn't have an offensive upside because he definitely does, right?
Yeah, for sure.
But if you were to put him in one category, he'd lean more defensive. So in theory, they would work well together, but I wouldn't want a rookie doing that. But they're clearly comfortable doing it, at least in the Devils game. Whether they're comfortable doing it again is a different situation. But it just is so fluid. Like, you put him on a pair with Mata. If Mata's the guy who's healthy, I think that's a great idea. You shelter the minutes to start off with. But I don't like saying that either, though, because if you're bringing Edvinsson up, I want to see him get minutes. But I also understand, like, you want him to get comfortable first, putting him with Mata, who's a defensive defenseman who can help cover up his mistakes. In theory, works, but in execution, Mata hasn't been that great this year. He hasn't been horrible. So it's just really tough. And I agree with your Sherratt and Petrie take. They've been playing better. Of course, the usage of them has been benefiting how they've been playing as well. So do you want to break up something that's working? You're obviously not going to put them on the top pair. It's a really tough decision. I don't know who I'm most like. I want to see Edvinsson get minutes. I want to see him be able to make mistakes to learn from them. But at the same time, I don't want to expose him to such tough competition that you ruin like his confidence at the time being. So this is why I'm not an NHL head coach. Either way, I'm excited he's called up. I'm excited we're going to get more looks at Jonatan Berggren. And you know what? Good for Austin Czarnik. He's been sticking with the club. I think he's probably played more with the Red Wings than he's played with the Griffins at this point.
Yeah, maybe he's been on the roster for more, yeah.
Right. So it's really exciting time. Hopefully the boys have their legs reset. Everything's good to go.
Yeah,
they come out.
Needed that break.
They needed it, especially coming out against a hot Minnesota Wild team. So yeah, we'll preview that in segment 3, I guess.
Solid transition there.
Thank you. Better one than my last one. I'm going to talk to you guys today about FanDuel. As the weather gets colder, the NFL offers stay hot on FanDuel right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 if your team wins. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action, especially as the Detroit Lions are the NFC North champions. First time they've ever won the North. First time in 30 years they've won the division, just the division they're in. And great time also as the Pistons, about to break the all-time losing streak record.
You don't know that. You don't know that.
We don't know that yet, but chances are pretty high. So visit FanDuel.com. You can bet on whether or not they'll win another game all season. Like that is a bet that these sites
are the odds for that?
I don't know. You can check that out at FanDuel.com. And kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Segment 3, Lockdown Red Wings podcast. Scotty, Red Wings are playing the Minnesota Wild in Minnesota. And this is not the same Minnesota Wild team that the Red Wings faced, a month ago?
Yeah, not even close to the same. Obviously, they played each other once earlier in the year, and the Wings won that one. But this is certainly not the same team. They go into this game on a W3 and are 7-3-0 in their last 10. Cool feature on Bleacher Report says that 57% of all bets have been put on Minnesota, and they're a favorite. So not very many people, or at least less than majority of people, fading the underdog Red Wings on the road here.
Yeah, it's they've won 10 of their last 13 games since firing their head coach Dean Evison. Like,
big shake up, and it worked.
It has absolutely worked. I mean,
they went from well under 500, like one of the slowest starts in the entire NHL, and now they are back to 15-13-4 on the season because they've only lost 3 games in their last 13.
Yeah, we knew, right, that this was a talented roster that was underperforming last time the Red Wings played them. I think they had one of the league worst save percentages. I think the league worst penalty kill as well.
Their offense got off to a brutal start too, and it's really clawed its way back.
And next thing you know, Kirill Kaprizov, of course, 31 points in 32 games. Matt Zuccarello's got 28 and 28. Joel Eriksson X got 24 and 32. Obviously, a very top-loaded offense by them, but in the last 10 games, because this is one of those teams, because of the coaching change, you can't look at the season as a whole as an indicator of how they're playing. Like, you have to filter by their last 10.
Exactly. If you went season, like, this is This is a bottom 10 team in pretty much every stat, bottom 15 team in pretty much every stat. Like their season penalty kill is one of the worst in the league. They're 20th or worst in just about every team stat there is. But you got to look at where they were 13 games ago and then where they are now and kind of do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, in the last 10 games, they have the 12th best Corsi 4 percentage. So when it comes to shot attempts at 5-on-5, they're the 12th best in the league. Let me just Control F. I've learned this is a nice trick, how to do one simple thing that everyone already knows how to do. It helps me find the team better. And so, yeah, like in the last 10, they've been a really good team. They're 12th in the league at Corsi 4 percentage. So in the last 10, they have the 12th best share at shot attempts at 5-on-5. And a lot of that is they have just really done a good job of suppressing the shot attempts that they have been receiving. They have the 4th best Corsi against at 5-on-5 in the last 10 games, only having allowed 438 shot attempts. So while their offense is definitely picked up, it's almost supported by the fact that their defense and goaltending has gotten a lot better, which is where they were so porous in the past, right? Like the offense off to a slow start was always there. The defense was just crumbling around goaltending, and goaltending was abysmal behind them. Now they're getting good shot suppression. Their expected goals against is currently first in the league, 16.94 expected goals against in the last 10 games ever. And that's an incredible shift from where it was before. And if you filter that to expected goals for percentage, so you combine the goals for and the expected goals against together, they are currently sitting at 8th in the league. So while their offense, maybe shot attempts generated and quality of shot attempts generated is still 21st and 28th respectively, they've just done such a nice job of possessing the puck and suppressing shot attempts that they've just been on a tear. Like that's that head coach bump that they've gotten. The thing that they've struggled with the most, defense and goaltending, has just done a complete 180 since the new head coach has come in.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, like the Wings have been responsible for firing some coaches in the NHL, which is a funny joke that I appreciate. But yeah, man, this has been a completely different team. And for a franchise whose trajectory for so long was just like a plateau and then finally took that step forward the last couple of years to get off to as slow as a start they did this season, rather, to kind of right that ship, I'm sure is really big for everybody in there. So yeah, man, this is one where you can't really look at the head-to-head and go like, oh, like, we beat them earlier in the season. Like that was very much not the same team. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so right now we're going under the mindset that it's just Reimer.
Right.
Okay.
Although Michael Hutchinson did play pretty dang well against the Devils.
Yeah, but I agree, but there's no way after a break that they're going with him over Reimer.
We'll see. Either way, it's going to continue to be shaky, but hopefully the boys are rested. And, they said that Alex Lyon, we wouldn't see him until after Christmas. Well, it's after Christmas now. Hopefully he's healthy, but there's no guarantee. And that's going to continue to be the injury issues continue until they stop. And right now they have not stopped as of this 26th as we were recording this. So,
my resolution is no injuries.
Well, you can't really use that as a I did think really about that.
There's not too much control there. But.
Yeah. But yeah, it's going to be a tough team to play against, a hot team to play against. You're going to their barn. But, Red Wings can win. We ball. So. Patrick Kane's incredible. He is. He was the NHL's third star of the week. But hopefully somebody else scores goals to support him.
I hope.
Anyways, we'll be back with a new episode tomorrow to recap this game against the Wild. So stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.